Hey everyone, I'm Johnny. This is my co-host Connor.
Welcome to our podcast, Dad Shoes.
Have you ever wondered where a dad joke comes from?
Or how dads just seem to have the right wisdom for the moment.
Or you're just trying to figure out what your dad was thinking? Maybe you are a dad and you just need to hear,
Hey man, us too.
well, we're learning what it's like to wear the dad shoes.
And we would like to invite you to join us on the journey. First things first though, John. Do you own a printer?
I do own a printer.
What kind of printer do you like? Do you like your printer?
Well, yes and no. Do you want me to expand on that?
No, not really.
Okay, because I do like my printer, but I also wish it was different.
Yeah. Well, our printer was making some noise, like a weird noise. It sounded kind of like music.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to go check it out. Turns out the paper was jamming.
Oh, nice. I wish.
No, but seriously though. So we have 3 printers right now
Wow.
because they're all donations from my family members.
Do they all work?
At different times.
That's hilarious.
The laser printer only works with my computer.
Okay.
The Canon all-in-one only works with my wife's computer. Neither of them work on the Wi-Fi,
Funnier.
which is awful. And then the other one we haven't even taken out of the box because it's from the mid-2000s.
I don't even, just send it back.
We really need to. We're just sending it on to Goodwill. But so my wife keeps getting these jobs that she works from home, and they require
Yep.
her to have a printer. So
Yep.
the company buys us a printer.
That's awesome.
And then when she leaves that job, we have to give the printer back.
That sucks.
Yeah. And then like we just got rid of a printer.
Wait.
Like we had a printer. Marcy
Right,
got a
then
new
you had
job.
to send it back.
Back up. So we had a printer, right?
Yep.
It was a good printer. Then Marcy got a new job. They sent us a printer, like same printer, it's a different model.
Yeah.
Does the same stuff. All in one printer. We never use the fax, but it's there.
Yeah, seriously.
And then recently, Marcy lost her job, so we had to send the printer back, and now we don't have a printer again. But now we have 3 printers.
Because you were gifted 3 printers?
We were gifted 3 printers. My family doesn't throw away anything.
I don't throw away anything.
Just for such an occasion.
So my printer is a holdover from my mother's job. They were getting rid of it. It's a she's a paralegal, so they print a ton of crap. This is not a big industrial printer. It's a Brother toner printer, so it's got toner, which I prefer because how often do you print something at your house?
For work or for personal stuff?
Just how often do you print something at your house?
Maybe once a month.
Okay. If you didn't print things for work at your house, how often would you print things?
See, that's why I was asking. Maybe once every 6 months.
So I used to have a super high quality, I think it was a Canon all-in-one LaserJet photo printer. So it did it was a printer, it was a copier, it was a scanner. And I mean it did fax, but we might as well not do fax because whatever. The cartridges for that computer, for that printer, were like $15, $10 to $15 a piece. And every single time I wanted to print something, I had to go buy a new cartridge because the ink was dry. So I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. This is a complete waste of money. And my mother said, hey, do you guys want a printer? And I said, yes, I do. So we got our toner printer. The problem is it's only black.
Yeah.
It's only black.
The color
and white.
ones are expensive.
Yes. So if I can get a color toner printer, that's what I want. How'd you like that song I sent you?
I couldn't understand a word of it.
It's funny you say that. It was all in the Inuit language. I don't know what that is.
Like, where did you personally come across Inuit folk music?
Spotify, man.
It just put it on?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I was listening to Thrawn Alliances. And it's Thrawn and Vader go off on a mission. But so I finished the book. the audiobook, and I'm like, all right, I don't want to start anything new. I don't want to start a podcast. I just want to listen to some music. So I put on my folk music playlist, and they make playlists for you.
Sure.
So it was like playlist 3 or something, and I'm driving home, and all of a sudden, this like it wasn't the song I sent you. It was another song. It's called "The Northern Lights" by the Jerry Cans.
The Jerry Cans. That was the band you sent me.
The Jerry Cans is the band, but the song was called "The Northern Lights," and I'm not even going to try to pronounce the song that I sent you because there's like 13 letters there. But it was really good, and so I looked them up, and I followed the go to the artist, and I listened to some other of their stuff, and it's pretty good. But they're like an Inuit folk band. It's just man, it was just so cool.
You find the weirdest music.
No kidding, man. But let me ask.
And you like all of it. That's the weird thing.
You know what? It's Canadian music. Something about the Canadians, they just get me.
I guess so.
I don't know.
My brother-in-law wants to move to Canada.
Yeah?
He's thinking about it.
What part?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think he's really thought that far into it.
Oh, that's really funny. Because I thought about moving to Canada, but
it's cold.
it gets cold.
It gets real cold.
If I was going to move, and we talked about it, we would move to another country that I don't want to promote because then they'll get overcrowded, and I feel really bad for the Kiwis.
You know, that whole conversation, I was going in my head. I'm just like asking myself, is like Inuit is the proper term, right? We don't want to say the offensive term on our podcast. And then you come in here with Kiwis.
That's what they call themselves. I don't actually know if Inuit is the proper term.
I Googled it.
I think
it is. It is.
And that's one of the things, like, this is taking a complete turn. But no, I don't know if that's how they want to be referred to. Then that's how I want to refer to them.
Sure.
And
just like being really careful, like Googling, is Inuit the proper term? I believe it is from my Google search.
I believe it is. Hey, listen,
Oh, man.
if you are an Inuit and you are
listening,
if you don't like that term, then please let me know, and we will repost this we'll edit all of this, and we'll take it all out, and we'll repost it.
We'll put it right back with the right word. So we had a recent event. We had a recent development. I don't know if you want to go any further with that. You look like you might want to.
I was making a left turn, but it looks like you're making a right turn.
I'm making a right turn. I'm making a right turn into our topic for tonight. Oh, either way. Okay. Wow. I want to know, what was your left turn?
Nothing. Was a segue. Go.
Okay, cool. We had a recent development, a recent event, you might say, a recent decision, and I have purposely not talked about this with you,
okay?
Because I wanted to get your live reaction for the conversation, and that is, Marcy and I have decided, at least for now, that we are a non-spanking family.
Okay.
We will not be spanking our children because it doesn't work.
So, okay.
In our experience.
Why would you spank your child?
I think, the traditional view is that it is a disciplinary action. Mm-hmm. Depends on how you define disciplinary action. But, in traditional sense, a kid acts up, a kid does the wrong thing, they get a spanking.
Discipline.
And a lot of times, and we found ourselves doing this for a while too, is it was almost like a threat. And I hate to use that word, but I mean, more or less it was like, hey, stop doing that or you're going to get a spanking. Mm-hmm. And all that really did was make our kids afraid of spankings, not actually correct any behavior, as we have noticed. So
what? Okay. So we have not made that decision. And it's funny because not our last episode, but the one before, we talked about things we said we wouldn't do or would do as parents. And I have gone both ways. I once, when I was younger, I said, yeah, I'm totally going to spank my kids because, I got spankings and
sure,
I turned out okay. And
yeah,
I'm totally going to do that. And then more recently, I've thought that I don't want to spank my kid because it's just something they're afraid of. They're not getting a benefit from it. They're just afraid of the spanking.
Yeah.
And then once we had kids, my mother, because my mother was living with us when we had Charlotte May, and Charlotte May had done something, like, I don't know, did something with her hand, and we were trying to get her to stop, and she wouldn't stop. Didn't matter what we did, she wouldn't stop. And my mom finally said, just smack her hand when she does it. So we started doing that. We'll smack her hand, and it's not like a, a big. It doesn't hurt. It might make, a little noise, almost like you're clapping your hand, but
sure. But to a 2-year-old,
it's oh, wait a minute, something's happened. It's a shock. It's a sound, and there's a feeling associated with it. So for us, the spanking is not. I mean, I see what you're saying. You make a good point with that. Like, they're afraid of the spanking, and it's a disciplinary. For the way we've been using it, it's now that Charlotte May is not an infant, she'll get a pop on the tush, right? And that's her spanking. It doesn't hurt. There's nothing. We're not hitting her hard. It's like a hey, lady, knock it off. Oh, and my dad used to call it an attitude adjustment. You'd get an attitude adjustment, and it was not a pop on the tush.
Yeah, so like that sounds aggressive.
Yeah, I got a spanking, and so this is more of like, hey, stop, because when we verbalize it, she's not listening. So then we're shouting at her, and now we're just yelling, and she's tuned us out completely. So it's almost like a hey, pay attention to this, and what we've been able to do, and it's like you said, it's if you don't clean up your toys, I'm going to give you a spanking, and that's like a last resort. We're taking it away. We're not doing it. We'll take things away first, and then finally, it's if you don't stop this, I'm going to give you a spanking. And usually, what happens, it's because she's just whining, and like she won't do anything because she's throwing a temper tantrum. She's 2, and she's whining and yelling, and if you don't stop this, I'm going to give you a spanking. And one of 2 things will happen: she'll stop completely, or she'll just whine like, "No, don't give me a spanking." Double down, but then like 5 seconds later, it's done. So whether it would have been done 5 seconds later anyways, I don't know, but
yeah, the world may never know. Yeah, and we are not like, we're not judging any families that do employ spanking. We are not,
or don't,
and we're not telling people what's best for their family. We just noticed with our kids in our context with our family that spanking just doesn't work, and I think a lot of things built into that decision. Partially, really ever since we talked with Anna about children's behavioral stuff, like behavioral specialists. We've been having to deal with behavioral specialists because of our youngest daughter lately, having some problems with school. And just in those conversations, just a lot of it came down to other ways to try and deal with the situation. And in our context, the spanking was always the last resort. It was always timeout didn't work. Taking away toys didn't work. We need this behavior to stop now.
So what kind of behavior have you been dealing with that would warrant a spanking?
Mostly
do you have anything specific?
Well, it's mostly the temper tantrums that we'd be having. Or, because both our kids, they can get kind of violent. I don't know if your kids are like this at all. But like Titus, when he gets upset, he starts throwing things. And I think in conversations with Anna, she talks a little bit about, kids just will throw things because that's how they've decided to deal with it. And it's not like you necessarily stop them from throwing things as much as you show them appropriate things to throw and appropriate places to throw them. And what would happen is we would put Titus in his room and he would just start taking his toys and throwing them all out the door.
Right.
Which was just destructive and really aggravating.
Yeah,
really grinding my grits. But it was like, we need this behavior to stop because you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to break something. If it was something out in the living room, like you're going to hurt your sister. So we need to stop this now. But what it really became is he wasn't learning anything from it. He wasn't stopping the behavior. And a lot of times he was just kind of doubling down and turning his whine from whatever the current problem was to don't spank me, and then right back to whatever his situation was.
So one of the things interesting that I took from that conversation we had with Anna is it's that redirection. We've been trying that for a while. Like, she'll be whining about something, and there is no reason for it, right? She's upset because, I don't know, her blocks don't fit together the way she thinks they should. So now she's upset, and so let's try to redirect that, and let's find something else. But the problem is she doesn't have something else. This is the problem. And even when you put it away, she doesn't know what the problem is now. She just knows she's upset. So finding some way to redirect it has been beneficial from that. But one of the ways that we found we're able to redirect it is if you don't stop, you're going to get a spanking. So it's and I'm still kind of on the fence about that. Like, I don't we just don't do that. We just don't give her spankings because it's something we try not to do as much as possible. But we have, and I don't want to say we won't in the future, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's not something that we, let me restart that thought. Obviously we have spanked our kids before, but we're just not seeing that it's yielding any results. And honestly, I wouldn't say that we're never going to do it in the future either, but I can identify that now it's not something that works. It seems to prolong the tantrum rather than end the behavior. It seems to prolong our issue. Because the other time it comes up is whenever he's getting violent, but also like at bedtime. When he doesn't want to go to bed, and we're just like,
that's when he throws his biggest tantrums.
And it's not even that he's throwing a tantrum. It's just like he won't do something. He won't stay in bed. He won't go to sleep. He won't stay in his room. And it's like, dude, if you keep fighting this, if you keep stalling this out, then we're going to give you a spanking. And it never worked. And he was never like, oh, okay, I'm going to go to bed now. In our context, we weren't getting anything that was yielding results in that.
What do you think is an alternative then?
Well, what we've been doing is just trying to show other ways for our kids to deal with their anger and their emotions. But honestly, the biggest thing I've been doing is I just wait it out. I've gotten really good at just like, all right, you do your thing, and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to wait until you're done. And because I think a lot of it comes down to attention. And a lot of our kids' behavior comes down to they want attention.
I think you're right.
And when you remove the attention, and when you say like, okay, well, I'm not going to pay attention to you while you're behaving like this. I'll be right here. When you're done, you let me know and we can move on and we can talk about this.
So what do you do? Like, are you just sitting in his room while he's throwing a temper tantrum?
Yeah, usually.
Or you're like, oh, okay.
No, I'll sit in his room and I will lean up against the wall, and sometimes I'll just lay on the ground and wait. He's got some comfy pillows in there. So
So it's funny because I do pretty much the same thing, and I've been trying to get my wife to do that. But usually we'll be somewhere, whether it's at home or out at a friend's house or whatever. And, because you're the only friend's house we ever go to, and it's rare, but, we'll be out or something, and she's whining. So I have taken to just ignoring it. And especially at home, I'll just ignore it. And if we're out somewhere, I'll say, if you can't behave yourself, you're going to go in the cart. Like, we'll be at Costco or something, you're going in the cart. We're not doing this. This is unacceptable behavior. Put her in the cart. And then just go about what I'm doing while she does whatever she's going to do in the cart. And there's nothing for her to do. If she starts getting violent or, she doesn't really throw anything. But I'll pick her up out of the basket and put her in the little seat thing and buckle her in. And then she's upset because now she's buckled in. And then it's, if you want to behave, I'll let you out. But otherwise, you're going to stay in this seat right here until you learn to behave yourself. And that's usually what I do. We don't spank. Like I said, we don't spank very often at all. That's normally what it is. It's that I'm just going to ignore you. And if we're at home, like if I'm home or somewhere where I can just leave you and not pay attention to you, That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to ignore her, and you can go do whatever you want. And as soon as she gets into something she's not supposed to be in, Daddy comes over. I take it out of her hand, put it somewhere she can't get it, and I go back to what I was doing.
Yeah.
Not acknowledging her at all while she's throwing a fit.
Yeah, and who knows? This is probably creating some other kind of psychological issue.
Of course, everything we do to our kids is going to cause them trauma.
Yeah, I think that we talked about that early on in the podcast, though, right? Like, no matter what we do, our kids are going to therapy. You know, everybody needs therapy.
They might not go to therapy, but they're probably going to need it.
So yeah, it was just a recent decision, and I don't know. It's not much. I wouldn't say it's something we came to lightly. It was just something that, like, when our kids would resort to hit us, and then they would get a spanking, it was like, well, you're teaching your kid to not hit by hitting him, and it's like that's not going to work.
I stopped this a while ago, but I've kind of picked it back up. Where we'll I don't know if you ever do this with your kids, but you get ribbies.
Ribbies?
And so you're nibbling on their ribbies.
Oh,
They're ribs. They're ribs. You know, they're ribbies. I'm gonna get some ribbies. And so we'll nibble. I'm biting her, right? Biting her ribs. My family used to do that to us when we were kids. I mean, me, my brother, my cousins, everybody. You know, it was funny. It tickles.
Does ribbies count as baby talk?
I mean, in as much as your toes are piggies. I guess technically, but
I don't know.
I don't think so. It depends on how you say it, I think.
It depends on it. It's not like twubble, you know.
It's not, yeah, right. It's not the word, it's the delivery.
Sure.
Yeah. But she was doing something. This is a year ago, at least a year and a half ago, maybe. She's doing something, and so I'm biting her fingers, like she's putting them and I'm biting her fingers, and I realize, wait a minute, I'm teaching my kid that it's fun to play by biting.
Yep.
So I stopped that, and that
I can speak from experience. That is really something you don't want your kids to do.
But is it is it something you taught them to do?
No, I don't know where she got it from.
Yeah. So I mean, I was teaching Charlotte May to bite, to have fun, to play. I stopped that real quick, and it was fun. It wasn't like,
sure,
there was no malice in it, and she would and Mabel's starting to do it now. They just put their fingers in your mouth, right? So the little,
yeah,
it's funny.
Oh, they're waiting for a reaction.
Exactly.
They want a reaction from you,
right? But then when somebody sticks their fingers in their mouth at school, now we have blood because I know how hard I can bite and they don't.
Yeah.
So.
Of course, if the other kid's fingers are in your kid's mouth, there's a couple of the steps I think that could have negated this.
Well, I mean, kids are kids and they shove things in their mouth and they shove fingers in other people's faces. So, I mean, there's that.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Spanking's discipline is a whole nother episode. And this is just part of it. I guess it's a series of episodes.
I guess it could be, but I mean, it really, we don't have to draw it out. You know, essentially, we have decided we're not going to spanking. So it's kind of like, well, if you're not going to spank, well, then now what?
Then what?
You know, now what are you going to do?
Yeah, then what?
Timeout works and doesn't work. You know, Titus definitely doesn't like it. But if you're struggling to keep him there the whole time he's there, I mean, is it really affecting anything? Riley puts herself in timeout. You know, she'll just walk over and sit down in the timeout chair, and she loves watching that little timer go by. You know, it's a treat for her.
That's funny,
man. She's a tough nut to crack.
Charlotte May is sometimes like that. If she's having tonight, I put her in timeout, or mommy put her in timeout because she wouldn't put her blocks away. So her blocks got taken away. We didn't go on a walk, and she got put in timeout.
Wow.
Oh man, it was a bad. Yeah, she just wasn't listening, and I had already told her, if you don't put your blocks away, if I have to tell you to put your blocks away one more time, I'm taking them away. Then mommy said, if I have to tell you to put your blocks away one more time, we're not going on a walk. So then we had to tell her to put her blocks away one more time. So both of those things had to happen because we each said it independently. And now if you don't say it, or if you don't follow it up, then your words don't have any meaning. But then she got sent to timeout because she wasn't listening and mommy was irritated. But she sat in timeout, and I'm not quite sure how that corner, it's a corner in our kitchen, like our kitchen dinette area. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how that became the timeout corner, but that's where she goes. It's a timeout corner. And one day I come home and Renee, is her little stuffed rabbit, is sitting in the timeout corner in her stroller, like her little toy stroller. So why is Renee in the corner? And she looked up at me. She says the stroller's in timeout.
Wow.
Renee's in timeout, so she put them in timeout. I mean, I don't know why.
That's like, honestly, I think that's the other scary thing about it when it comes to like discipline and spanking, is when you see them start employing that to their other things, or maybe to themselves. Yeah.
Well, so we started putting toys in timeout. If you can't play with this appropriately, it goes to timeout. It goes away. And so she started putting her toys in timeout. She's only put herself in timeout a handful of times. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, like, not like putting toys in timeout because, taking away toys and they're not using it right. That's one thing. But I distinctly remember one time early on, like Titus would spank himself. Like he did something wrong and then he spanked himself. And it's like, oh, wow, what are the negative implications of this action?
That's an interesting thing, because I don't know I would view that as a negative. I would view that as an understanding of cause and reaction, or cause and effect.
I mean, he's grasping if you do something, like, I did something wrong, I'm going to spank myself now.
I'm going to get a spanking for doing it.
But is he like, it's like when you go pick your own Switch, to use a similar metaphor, like you're asked to go pick your own Switch. Do you pick a really small one that when you bring to grandma, she's going to be like, this is too small, let me go get a real one, and she's going to pick a bad one. You got to pick one that's just right,
It's got to be willowy, but it can't be too willowy. If it's too willowy, that's going to hurt.
Yeah, so he's like, well, I did something bad, so I'm just going to spank myself. That takes care of that. We don't have to have that happen anymore.
I see that as like I see the both sides, right? This isn't good. He's now punishing himself for doing something that may or may not have been punishable.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, he's taking responsibility for his actions.
Well, and I think we've encountered, I don't know if we've had this conversation or not, but like the difference between discipline and punishment. Like you want to discipline your kids. You don't want to punish your kids. In that the discipline should fit the crime. If the kid throws a toy, that toy goes to timeout. If not, absolutely. Kid throws toy, you take away TV, because they don't have the mental capacity to make that connection.
Right. Sure. I think that's completely valid. There is a punishment, and that's the effect of the cause, right? You threw your Xbox controller, right? Well, you don't have it anymore. It's gone. You threw it. It's not here anymore. Mommy told her, I mean, this is a couple months ago, I'm going to throw your blocks away, because she was throwing them. Or I don't know. I didn't get the full story. I just know the blocks got thrown away, and then they magically reappeared like 2 months later.
Yeah. I've pulled that trick.
Yeah.
I feel dirty afterwards. I'm like, dude, I'm going to throw this ball away if you don't stop. And I never do. Like, I always take it and like I'll just hide it somewhere. But then one time Titus came out and he's like, nope, Daddy threw that toy away. Like later on, a couple days later, I didn't actually throw the toy away. It was just like, okay, well, I'm going to that. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to throw this away because you don't need it. You're not using it properly. And then a couple days later, he's like, oh, nope, that toy's gone. Daddy threw it away. Wow. Keeping me accountable.
Well, there you go. No, this is a new one. This is a new block.
We found one just like it. Anyway.
Exactly the same. But
I don't know. Yeah. That's all I got.
Hey, let me ask you something completely off topic.
I'm ready.
Did you see Soul?
Multiple times.
Really?
Oh, that was the movie in our house for a little while.
No kidding. It has been out for like a week.
A month. A little over a month. We probably watched it every day for 2 weeks. To the point where we actually got a toy piano, like one of those little kid pianos.
Right. Yeah, you did tell me that. Yeah.
And the kids have it now, and they love stomping on it more than anything. But it was like, oh, Soul plays piano, so we got a toy piano, and the kids would play on it.
That's very interesting. Did you know that Trent Reznor is on the soundtrack.
I don't know who Trent.
He was one of the composer. 9 Inch Nails.
Oh, no, I did not know that.
Yeah, he's one of the composers.
Huh.
I only know that because he popped up somewhere this morning.
On your Inuit folk playlist?
Right. No, like, I don't know. I saw Trent Reznor somewhere. I have no idea where he came from, why that was in my head. But I looked up his recent credits, and he's credited on Soul. Anywho, I really want to watch that movie, but I just haven't gotten around to it.
You haven't watched Soul yet?
No,
Oh my goodness.
and I was going to put it on the other day, and I'm like, I'd rather watch The Hobbit.
Fair enough. It's a pretty good movie. I mean, the first couple times I really enjoyed it. I still think it's a good movie, but the 18th time I was like, all right, this is getting old. I don't know if that's like the test of a good Pixar movie. Can you watch it 100 times with your kids?
In a row or at all?
In a row. I mean, I can come back to like Frozen 2 and be okay.
I could come back to a Frozen.
But if we're watching it every day...
I like the Frozens.
I mean, Frozen's a great movie, but I don't need to watch that every day.
Yeah. Well, I put on Moana the other day because I'm like, I don't want a Frozen today.
Yeah.
I just don't want
need something else. So. Yeah, Soul was good. I think I connected with it a little bit more because I did do middle school band. And so like the whole thing, he's a middle school band teacher. And so I kind of related a little bit on that note, on the music note. But it's good. I mean, it was a good movie. I really enjoyed it.
Very interesting.
Now it's all about Whoopi.
What?
Whoopi.
Make it Whoopi?
No, don't go there.
What?
No, Whoopi is how Titus says Blippy, which is weird because he can say Blippy, but he'll like, I want to watch Whoopi. Thanks for hanging out with us today on Dad's Shoes. We'd really appreciate it if you would share this with your friends. Help us get the word out. If you have any feedback on our podcast, you can reach out to us on Twitter. Let us know if Inuit is the proper term. You can also email us at dadshoespod@gmail.com. If you are a parent, how do you discipline your kids? Do you give spankings? Let us know. We'd also appreciate it if you would leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks again for hanging out.
Peace.